Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. This is Kerry-Ann Powell here. I hope that you are here for the strategic plan optimization for service-based SMBs. So this is the workshop that you signed up for. Then let's get started. And for those of you who didn't register for this, come on in. This is going to be a great time. We're talking about how to optimize your current existing strategic plan for if you have a small business, a medium-sized business, a nonprofit, primarily though around service-based businesses. But these tools and strategies that we're going to be talking about today can be used for anyone. So let's get started. Yeah. Okay, so this is a monthly thing that I'm going to start doing on different topics that attain or help founders be able to run their businesses smoothly. So this is the first founders check-in, and I'm really excited about this. So hopefully you will be interested in coming on board more often, like once a month, to sort of get some real good tidbits and strategies that you can use to be able to run your business. Okay, so that's that. Now, my name is Kerry-Ann Powell. I'm the founder of Trafalgar Strategies, which is a business strategy and consulting firm for small and medium-sized businesses that are in the service industry. I have been doing strategy for way too long. Oh my goodness. I've been doing business strategy literally from my early 20s, and I'm not going to tell you how long it's been. But no, truth, way more than 20 years. So I love the idea of being strategic about how we do things and being able to execute those strategies. So that's who I am. That's my firm. And, hey, would love to connect with you. If you're not following me, you just happen to see this, I'd love to connect with you through LinkedIn. So that's great. All right. So why are we doing this? Okay. Why are we doing a strategic planning session? Well, truth be told, the problem that we're facing is that even though people have these great strategic plans, okay, and they're firm and they're strong and everything like that, 90% of businesses, 90% actually don't execute very well. So that's 90%, even if they have a strong strategy, but the execution part of the thing is really the problem. So I think with that 90%, we want to make sure that you can, for sure, basically execute the plan if you already have one that's strong already there, or get you to the place where you are hitting your goals, even if you don't have a strategic plan right now, but being able to be strategic so that you can hit your 2023 goals. So that's why we're doing this. So what are the reasons why people don't hit their plan? Well, there's three that I have found to be the truth. One being the cause. The hazy, they're hazy. The strategic objectives that they have are very hazy. They're not strong enough, and they may think they're strong, but they're not strong enough. So when you're drafting your strategic objectives, they need to be really, really clear and really, really strong. Okay. The second reason is because there aren't enough, the measurements and metrics that you're using aren't aligned to the strategic objectives that you have. You may think they are, but I have found in the work that I do is that oftentimes people are unable to, like, they think they have it connected, the metrics and such, but somehow it's not equating to the actual objective that they put out. And then the third one I would say is that it's inaccessible for the team. So their everyday, day-to-day stuff isn't really connected to the strategic plan. I remember back in the day when I was being taught how to do strategic planning, we would have these strategic plans, we'd go somewhere like on an offsite or like to a fancy place or whatever, and would have some professional person come in and structure your plan. And then you'd have this really beautiful folder, and the CEO and maybe the executive team had it in their offices, but it wasn't accessible to everyday people. And I think that's one of the challenges that is the reason why they don't execute well. So those are the three reasons. Now, the question on the table is, what is strategic planning, and why? There's so many different ways in which you can run a strategic plan. Yes. And I think what's really important is to sort of say, okay, there are all these best practices, all these great tools, and I think implementing them is really important. As a matter of fact, we're going to give you a worksheet that's going to allow for you to really flesh this out in your time. But it doesn't really matter. I mean, it matters, but it doesn't matter in terms of how you actually do it. It's what's more important is how you actually execute it. So I'm just going to say there are some parts of the strategic plan that I'm not going to be talking about in today's session. So, for instance, this is a framework that I use when I'm working with businesses that allows for me to sort of walk a business through and recognize what are some of the challenges that they're dealing with. And so, this particular image is what I call the big idea framework. And as you can tell, strategic planning is on the third ring, okay, of the parts of why problems might pop up in a business. The central ring, that big idea section, I'm going to expand on that and show you the components there. The components there are quite vast, right? The bottom left, we have the business owner's life plan, which we won't go into today. In the middle section, top middle, that's the business vision. We'll go into that a bit. Then we have the bottom right, which is, you're sort of like, where are you in the business? Like, do you have a business exit strategy? Do you have a growth plan? Those kinds of things. And then the top left and the top right, that's where you're really looking at. Is your business model working? Have you tested it? Is that a good business model that you're building your strategic plan around? Or are you working on your product formulation? Is your product formulation working as well? Have you done all of those things? The reason why I'm bringing this up is because we're not going to talk about that. I'm going to assume today that you have already figured out that your business model works, that your product formulation works, and that you have developed a business vision for your company already. And so we're not going to be going through a SWOT analysis today or a pestle analysis. What we're going to do is, remember, the goal of this is to be able to get people from having a strong strategic plan into executing that. So we're going to focus on the things that are causing the problems. So I just want to start with, you can plan. You can plan strategically. So many people feel like strategic planning is one of those things that's sort of out there in the universe of smart people. No, you can be a cool kid too. All right. So you can do this. This is not a problem. We're going to walk you through and we're going to demystify it for you. So before we start into all of the things, I wanted to just first remind you that I have the Google Doc that you can download. It's a worksheet that you can use while you are working through this session, and you can go through it, learn from it, type, like, because what it goes is, like, you download it. The link's in the chat. My team is putting that in the chat. What I'd like for you to do is download it. It's a Google Doc. So either copy it, copy the document and then start saving it as your own in your own drive, or download it and start working on it on your desktop or print it out, whatever. So this document you can use to then be able to work through what we're doing. Also, too, if you, for some reason, feel that you've drafted some things through the workshop and you want to sort of have some other eyes look at it, you can schedule a call with me that I will have. There will be a link. My team will put that in the chat for you to be able to schedule something, a 30-minute conversation around the strategic plan that you're going to be drafting, or if you want to sort of talk about, tighten up some of your objectives, and we'll go from there. All right. So remember, you can plan. Okay. So let's get started into this particular thing. So here are the elements. This is like a funnel that I think, the reason why I put it as a funnel is because I really think that a part of strategic planning and executing is about becoming really concentrated and very purposeful about the tip end of this plan. Okay, so in the top you'll see the core strategic goal. That's the top part, and then what we're going to do is we're going to work through today all the way down to your weekly KPIs. So we're going to help you create from all the way down from your core strategic goal all the way down to your weekly KPIs. So this is just to give you a bird's eye view as to what we're doing, what we're talking about today. So you're not really like, where are we now? And we're going to put this slide up a couple times so that you can see it, know it, understand where we're at, and be able to understand it. Okay, so let's jump in. So the first part of your strategic plan, remember we talked about in the big idea component, the need for a business vision. So the business vision has three components to that. One are your core values, okay? What do you believe? What are important to you in this business? What is it that you guys stand for? And so that doesn't change, right? Your core values are very core to who you are. They don't change. So once you have your core values, you want to put that out on the worksheet, okay? Secondly, you want to have your core purpose. What's your core purpose? Your core purpose is a pithy statement that makes, we don't want to make this corporatese. We want to make this something that's real and true, and it hits you in the gut when you hear it, when you say it. And you want to make sure everyone in your business knows it, understands it, and can say it. So if in our business, it's, we're in the business of helping businesses thrive. That's our core purpose. So it helps us be able to say, if there's something happening in the business and we're like, okay, does this, if I were to do this, does this help businesses thrive? Yes or no? No, well, then it's not a thing. So your core purpose, your values, those are two things we want you to sort of craft on your own. We're hoping, we'd assume that you've had these already, but if you don't, start thinking about that. And we can also talk about it on the review call for your plan. The third part of the vision is your core strategic goal. Your core strategic goal. This is, you might have heard this term used, your BHAG, meaning your big, hairy, audacious goal. That's what a core strategic goal really is. It is, and you'll see the definitions popping up on the screen. We will be able to, I just want to make sure that we're recording, but we will be able to get this to you, as well as and find it so that you don't have to like take too many notes, but at the same time you can take notes and screenshots. It's fine. So this is what a core strategic goal is. Okay, it is your true north. It's like 15, 20 years out. It's what you want to be in the next 15, 20 years. Okay, now let's see what an example of a core strategic goal could look like. So for here, your core strategic goal would be this. I'm going to have a fictitious company that we're going to be using, okay, throughout the examples, just to help you understand, what a good strategic goal would look like, and it will allow for you to be able to tighten yours up. Okay, so this fictitious company is a political fundraising firm as well as a NGO donor advising firm. So here's their core strategic goal: to be the premier sought after political fundraising and donor advising firm to leading state and national candidates and high net worth philanthropic and political donors in North America, Europe, and Africa, with a top line revenue of 500 million and a team of diverse top global talent. Now that is very BHAGgy, isn't it? And BHAGgy is a word I'm going to just use. But if you've read any of Jim Collins' books around, built to last, all those, that's sort of a term that he coined, and now it's sort of become a part of the ethos in business. But that's a real strong strategic goal, right? You can see someone building a business into the next 15 to 20 years with that in mind. All right. So what would, if you have, once you have a core strategic goal, then you need to break this down into your annual goals. All right. Now, annual goals, you can have a long-term goal in the middle, which gets you to a 10 to 7 year time frame. And I do that with sort of larger companies or companies that have more robust kinds of things going on. So I have used long-term goals as a benchmark between your core strategic goal and your annual goals. But for the most part, we're going to use annual strategic goals and to be the next step from your core strategic goal. So your annual strategic goal is basically your strategic goal broken down into 3 annual years. You do not want to go any further than 3 years because, who knows, right? So your annual goals would be from the most current year, from the least current year, all the way down to the most current year, this year. And you have to make sure that this goal would be like, if it's achieved, it would get you closer to your core goal, your core strategic goal, the thing that's your true north. So what would be an example of your, so this would be like at year one. I'm going to assume that you have, or you're going to work through creating your year three and your year two. So we're going to go the fictitious company and start what they would be a year one. So like an example of a year one coming out of that core strategic goal would be to be the premier sought after political fundraising and donor advising firm to leading state and national candidates and high net philanthropic and political donors in North America and Europe with a top line revenue of 2 million and a team of diverse top national talent. So if we go back to the core goal, okay, the core strategic goal, you see it was the premier sought after political fundraising goal, blah, 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 in North America, Europe, and Africa. They also wanted to get to 500 million and they want to have a diverse top global talent. If you go to this annual goal, you will see what they've done is they've said, okay, we're not going to get to Africa this year, but we want to solidify our place in North America and Europe. We want to get to a $2 million top line revenue, and we want to have a diverse team of top national talent as opposed to global talent. Okay, so that just to give you a sense. Why don't you pause for a second and just draft what your annual goal would be? I'm just going to give you a second. And what I'd love for you to do is once you do that, to drop it into the chat. So I'm just going to give you maybe about a couple seconds to just kind of, if you already have yours for your 2023 annual goal, I'd love for you to put it in the chat and be able to move this thing forward so that people can see. All right. All right. So if you have it, go ahead and drop it in the chat if you're trying to tweak it a bit. All right. So now we're back to the funnel. So now you have your core strategic goal. Yes. And you have your annual goals, year 3, year 2, year 1. Okay. You also have your year 1 strategic goal. That's this year. That's 2023. That's now. So I'm assuming you probably have a goal already there. I'd love for you to see if you can move in to check to see if it actually aligns with your other annual goals or if it aligns with your core strategic goal. So, okay. Now, so we now have year 1 done. So let's start talking about the focus areas and the objectives. And I have coined this term FAO because oftentimes, you'd have some focus areas and you do some work on that, and then you have your objectives and you do some work on that. I just sort of put them all together. So your focus area is simply the title, because when you're talking about the goal, the objectives of your year 1 goals, you can't keep reading the whole entire thing. Oh, this is the goal. You want to have a quick name that says this is the goal. So you have a title of what that goal is, and it's a way that you and your organization can talk about it. And then you have the objectives. Okay. Now, an objective is a purpose statement that helps to sort of create an overall vision and it sets the measurements also for the annual goal. So you can have a couple of focus areas and objectives. I would recommend doing no more than 3 or 4 FAOs, but an FAO needs to be measured. So it needs to have a SMART characteristic. Okay. We all know what SMART means: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time bound. So we want to make sure that your FAO, meaning your focus area and objectives, are SMART. This is where if you want to spend some time tightening that up. So let's go to an example. So here is FAO 1 from the annual goal of this fictitious company. We need to call it something, but anyway, it's the $2 million year. That's their first FAO, the $2 million year. See, now you and I can now understand what we're both talking about. Yeah, it's the $2 million year stuff, right? So, and here's how they have written their objective: to increase top line revenue from 1.1 million to 2 million by maintaining current clients and securing 10 additional political, national, and state campaigns with at least 40,000 book value and 5 additional donor advising contracts with a minimum of 100,000 book value by December 31st. I think that that's a pretty clear objective. Yes, it's smart. Can they be able to track to see if they get there? Yes. Is it clear? Is it realistic? Well, realistic is depending upon the company, but I think getting from 1.1 million to 2 million in the year, I think that's fair if they have some other things in place. And so we want to make sure that you have the smart curriculum. So I think this particular FAO is a strong objective. Okay, so let's pause a bit. Oh, let's go through a couple of the other ones, and I'm going to pause for you to write yours. The second one would be diverse top talent. To hire and train 2 additional account executives in the business development department and a client success coordinator nationally from diverse backgrounds who are highly self-motivated and excellent fits to our company's culture by December 31st. So now you know, where is this going from? They said they wanted to have global tap talent, right? So in order for them to do that, they have to have this. But in the end, though, you know, these FAOs are parsing the big annual goal into pieces, into chunky pieces, so that you can then be able to execute them. So that would be your second FAO. Your third FAO in this fictitious company would be premium and sought after firm. You heard that, right? You might be thinking, well, premium and sought after, how do you measure what premium is and what sought after is? Here's how you do it. You figure out what does premium mean to you and your company? What does sought after look for you? Like if you have a goal, a strategic goal that has some sort of qualitative words in it, you have to define what that means for you and your company, and you have to be able to figure out how you can measure that. So in this case, the firm is saying premier is to increase the firm exposure to our ideal prospective clients by 50%. That I think will get them to sought after. And then increase fundraising success rates by 25% in current campaigns by December 31st. That gets them to get them to premier. If they're hitting their goals and they're going over their goals for their clients, and they're showing up exposure to their other clients, to prospective clients, then you've got an FAO 3 that has a very strong one. So those are really 3 ones that you can do. I'm going to pause a bit for you to kind of think about how you can draft your FAOs. Remember, it's an FAO is parsing your annual strategic goal into bite-sized pieces, and it has to have smart characteristics in order for it to really be an FAO, a focus area and objective. So you want to have a focus area, continue to type, you're just going to have a pithy title, $2 million a year, premier and sought after firm, right? Top and diverse global talent. Those are the titles, the focus areas. Your objective is how you're going to craft the actual objective in a smart characteristic. Okay, so we're going to move on. After you have done that, then you're going to move into the tactics. You've got your FAOs, and now you need to have agile ways to be able to implement those objectives. So what is a tactic? An FAO tactic is an action, or it could be a resource procurement, could be a project, could be a program, or just a result containing a KPI in order for you to be able to achieve the FAO. So if we jump into this, by the way, you could have a number of different tactics. This is where a lot is fine. You don't want to go too crazy. You can have a lot of tactics, and they all can be connected to different FAOs or different elements of an FAO. But what you have to have one tactic connected to one element of an FAO. I can't have an element of an FAO out there just wandering. If you're reading what you have written for your FAO, for your objective, and it's not connected to a tactic, then you do not have an objective because you can't know how to execute it. All right. So that's really, really, really important. And it has to have a KPI. All right. So an FAO tactic, what would that look like for you? An FAO tactic. So the $2 million a year FAO. All right. Here would be a couple of tactics for FAO 1. One would be secure and sign 10 additional national and state political races with at least 40,000 book value by December 31st. And in here, they have decided to do one per month based on the numbers that they're looking for. They got to close one per month, secure and sign, and then they are adding ownership to it. So this particular tactic is owned by Mary Jones. Now, you may have a playbook or action plan connected with this tactic, but this is the tactic. Now, this is what you call a lag indicator, all right? Meaning, if you do some behaviors, this will happen. But we also want to have a mixture of a lag indicators and lead indicators. So let's go to the next example. Schedule 40 sales conversations with qualified national and state political races. That's also owned by Mary Jones because she's the director of business development. Now that would be more of a lead indicator. I mean, sometimes people, you can kind of say, okay, what's lead, what's lag? But in this case, this would be a lead indicator because if you do schedule 40 sales conversations, it will more than likely result in you closing and securing 10 of those particular races, right? So this is where you want to have different tactics that can make sure you're measuring them so that you're not missing out. So say, for instance, you're scheduling 40 sales conversations, but you're not closing any. You need to be able to know, wait, we've got this metric going really well, but the lag isn't happening. So what's happening in what problem is showing up, right? So the next one would be to secure and execute 30 sales conversations. So you're saying, wait, Kerry-Ann, didn't we just say schedule sales conversations? Yes, we did, but we said schedule. Now you and I know that there's always going to be attrition. People are not always going to show up. So you're going to have to be able to have another sort of indicator or a tactic that covers for making sure that you are actually having these calls. The next one would be, the next tactic would be, say the marketing team will host 5 receptions to attract potential candidates and campaign managers, and that's owned by the marketing director. And if you're a solopreneur, it's owned by you. But nonetheless, so this one you might be saying, well, this seems more like a marketing thing, and this FAO seems a bit more like salesy. And I'm like, that's why I wanted to show you that it doesn't really matter what the actual tactic is. The point is, it has to be connected to an element of the objective. So you're trying to be able to get more clients in. Therefore, your marketing team may say, hey, we have this strategy where we want to have these receptions and we think we can work. And so you're going to have that. So that's why it's important to know that just because you have an FAO that seems like it's a marketing FAO or it seems like it's a sales FAO, that's not really the point of an FAO. An FAO is an objective that you want to get to, and your tactics are how do you get there, procurement, projects, results, those kinds of things. Okay. So the next one other example would be to hire a client success coordinator. Remember, one of the things that they said in the original goal was to be able to maintain the current clients. So they need to have a client success coordinator to make sure that there's someone making sure that we're retaining their clients as also when they are adding new clients. All right. And that's going to be owned by the HR manager. All right. So let's take a look and see where we are. So we've done the tactics. And we've done the FAOs. So this is where I'd like to stick a foot in and say, okay, so you see the graph, you see where we are. Now we're going into the 90-day goals. But before we get there, I want to stick a pin here where I've noticed a lot of people don't do this, and it's such an important, I love, love, love milestones. A milestone is basically a key event or an action in your strategic plan that will mark a significant stage of progress. It can also serve as a test of the efficacy of your strategy. I love milestones. If you have some strong milestones in place, it can help you see, oh, this strategy is working well, let's keep it going, or nothing's happening. So let's go to what an example of a milestone would look like for this fictitious company. So the first 250 attendees for a reception by April 15th. That gives you a sense of if you get to 250 going to the receptions, and maybe the receptions are the process of getting people to the reception is working. Invitations, all the people that are doing the event planning, all that kind of stuff. What would be another milestone example? Cross-functional team formed and wealth management playbook completed by March 13th. So maybe someone said, hey, let's create a wealth management program where we're helping to advise people on what to do with their money. And then maybe they think that we're good at donor advising and they may hire us. So this is where you want to say, okay, we don't really know what it's going to look like. So we got to create a cross-functional team. We got to develop a playbook, and here you go. So that would be a great milestone, because once you do it, then you can start implementing the wealth management. And then maybe like your first 5 client contracts secured from attendees of a wealth management program. So maybe you finish everything on the 15th, but April 15th, and then you begin to do one management program. And maybe you get 5 clients from signing out from that particular event. Then you know that this is working, right? And so you want to have this milestone. Obviously, the milestone gets to the June 30th. And then I think I have maybe one other example of a milestone. Do I? No, I don't. Okay. So let's get back to the funnel. So now you have done the core strategic goal, you've done the annual strategic goal, you have the year 1 strategic goal, you've got your focus areas and your objectives for year 1. You have gone through and done all of your FAO tactics. And I'm going to pause right here for you to look at your worksheet and start putting in what are some milestones that you could create in order to be able to move your needles, so you can test to see if things are working. So I'm going to give you a session, a bit of a second to craft what your milestones would look like for 2023. So remember, if you haven't done your core strategic goal, start drafting that. If you have your annual strategic goal, then you have the year 1 strategic goal. You've got your focus area and objective. Then you've got your tactics. And then I'd like for you to start putting in some milestones. And if you haven't gotten the worksheet, I'd like for you to just put that in the chat, and we will send that link out again for you. Okay, so now let's jump into 90-day goals. This is where I love. So you got all that stuff going. So now you got to jump into what your 90-day goals, because the truth is 90 days is about as far we can actually think about, right? So what your 90-day goals and action plans will do, I like to kind of mush the 90-day goals and action plans together. You can separate them out for sure, but I really think this is where, if you're going to create an action plan, a playbook for how you're going to execute, it would be in the 90-day realm, okay? So a 90-day goal and action plan is where the organization achieves momentum in its strategic plan. To execute and review the 90-day breakdown, it breaks down, right, the annual goal, and therefore it makes it more manageable. And then it really helps you to assess. So I really recommend you assess every 90 days. So once you've done a 90-day thing, you take some time and you make that a part of your business function, and then you assess where you are. Okay, so what would a 90-day goal and action plan look like? Let's jump into the 90-day goals. So you're right now still in Q1. Some of you did the survey, and some of you are feeling very confident that you're going to be able to hit your Q1 goals. Some of them are like, we're off track, but we think we can pull it back. And then some are like, we're not on track. We're never going to. So I appreciate you for filling out the surveys. So a Q1 goal in this fictitious company would be to secure and sign 3 new national or state political races with at least 40,000 book value. See, now you've really started making it clear. This quarter, we need to close 3 accounts. If we don't, then we haven't done it. We failed. So that's really important to recognize that. Another Q1 goal could be schedule 12 conversations with national state political campaigns by March 31st. That's 3 to 4 per month. That's owned by Mary. God bless Mary. So, you're scheduling another Q1 goal. It breaks it down into manageable numbers. Another Q1 goal for this fictitious company would be the cross-functional team formed and the wealth management playbook completed by March 31st. So remember, we talked about that as a tactic, but we didn't actually say, is it a Q1, Q2, Q3? We just said by the end of December 31st. Now we're making this a Q1 goal. It's a Q1 priority, and they have it, and it's done. All right. And it's also a milestone. So clearly the company wants this to happen. And then one other goal example could be, do we have another? I don't think we have another example of a Q1 goal. So this is where you're looking at. Okay. These are the Q1 goals. Pause for a second and think about what could be a Q1 goal for you? What would that look like for you? Okay. Once you've drafted that, we're going to jump into what the action plan would look like. An action plan is a way to make sure that your organization's vision is made concrete. Let me tell you, this I think is where a lot of people fail. They don't have an action plan for the goals. So it's kind of weird. Like to me, an action plan is also where you could add some weekly KPIs in there. It's how everyone does what they do. It's how you're going to execute. Different departments could, if could have their own playbooks. The point here is that you need to have a book, not a book like a literal book, but an action plan for how you plan to execute all of the things that you have in your strategic plan. And I think honestly, when I help businesses to create action plans, you begin to see that this is really, 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 really working. So, all right, that's what an action plan is. It's basically a way to be able to put into place what it is that you want to do. So once you are finished with your action plan and you have your 90-day goals together, then the weekly, I just love it. I love weekly stuff. That 100, that's where you're really, I mean, if you're doing weekly tracking, if you have weekly KPIs, I guarantee you're a company that executes well. The ones that don't have weekly tracking, don't have, weekly KPIs, don't have any of those things, they're the ones that have a hard time executing. So what is weekly tracking? Weekly tracking is the key to 100% exceptional execution of a strategic plan. When you track weekly, you can course correct easily and you can ensure the goal and the objective is obtained. So for instance, you've heard this analogy before. You're on a plane, the plane's going from New York all the way to LA. And planes just don't go straight lines. They do a little bit of zag and a little bit of zig and a little bit of zag and a little bit of zig. What you want to be able to do, what the weekly tracking does for you and your strategic plan and the health and success of your business, is that it helps you. Oh, there's a zig. Let's zag a bit. And it's not like you have to wait for a month to realize, oh, we are so off track. So when you create some KPIs for your weekly goals, that's when you really can course correct quickly, you can move quickly, and you're more agile. And as a small business, you are more agile anyway. So, make it work for you. Okay, so once you have your weekly tracking, the question is, how do you track it? First of all, you need to know what you are tracking. You need to know that, okay, if we said we were going to have 5 calls per week, and this week we had 2, you are either not on track or you're at risk. You're not on track. So don't fudge it. Be clear about what is defined as on track, what is defined as not on track, and what is considered at risk. Don't fudge, don't fudge, don't fudge. Don't be like, well, it could be on track. It's not too bad. No, if it's on track, it's on track. If it's not on track, it's not on track. Really be almost anal retentive about saying it's on track or not on track. If it's at risk, then I think you want to create a culture in your organization where everyone in your company can be able to feel comfortably say, hey guys, I think that this is going to be risky. I see some things out there that could indicate that we might have a problem. Think about those businesses. I mean, I will never forget that week when the stay-at-home orders came out for different countries regarding the pandemic. And we all sort of knew something was happening in China, and then it got to Europe, and some people knew, but they still were planning events. I mean, I got literally a week before the shutdown. I got an email from a business who had an event plan saying, "Hey, we're still moving forward." There are some things that if you have there are some people in your company who are going to be really good at saying, "Hey, here's a risk that we think is going to cause a problem in the business. We need to sort of pay attention to it." We don't want people who are Debbie Downers or always alarmist, but you do want to have a culture where people feel comfortable saying, hey, I think this might be a problem. So again, here's how you're going to do it. At risk, red. Not on track, yellow. green, on track, and then likely to exceed, bright green. And this also helps you when you do weekly check-ins and this sort of red light, green light method. It helps you in your meetings. You know how much people hate meetings, although, I'm not one of those people who hates meetings per se, but I like when meetings are productive. And if you can use this as a way to decide, okay, these are the things we're going to talk about in our meeting. Is it moving? Like, is this project on track or not? If it's not, how can we help you get it on track? And those are the kinds of conversations you can have, and they're more functional. So how do you track though? Like, what's like, besides, what exactly do you use to track? So here is some of the results that we came up with based on the poll that we put out there to you guys. And these are the results. The majority of you are using spreadsheets to track your weekly team progress. And then the other group is a mix between project management tools like Monday.com or Zoho Projects or Asana. A couple of you are using business operating systems such as Cascade, 90IO, and a couple of you are not tracking, which I'm hoping that after this call, after this workshop, you will start tracking. And a couple of you doing, I think maybe a couple of people were doing Autotask, or one person was doing Autotask. So here you are. This is what people are using to track, okay? And my philosophy is wherever you track, okay? If you are not tracking, use a spreadsheet to track. If whatever makes you comfortable, use that. However, I advise my clients, and when I'm working with the people to create their own strategic plan, I basically recommend using a business operating system tool, because in that tool, you will have your full strategic plan there. The problem with an Excel spreadsheet is that you have metrics and KPIs, but it's not connected to the strategic plan. But if you do a business operating system, your whole thing is in there. You can connect, the ownership to the person in the software, that so that person is performing well. That person can tell to see if they're performing well. Are they on track? They still go in and check, to manually put in there, but it makes your business more organized. And in that, to me, is where the optimization part comes in to the business. So I'm going to highly, highly recommend, my business currently runs at Cascade. We're actually switching over to 90IO, and I'm creating a whole thing there for my clients to be able to use. But what I would recommend is, using any one of the business operating tools. Rhythm System's a bit pricey for small businesses. So, I love it, but it's a bit pricey for small businesses. I think that 90IO is a good tool. And of course there's Cascade. But even if you have it, even if you love your Monday.com, or you love your Zoho projects, or you love your Excel spreadsheets, that's fine. Track however you can. But I'm just saying, I think that it's more success if you have your whole plan together in a system such as 90IO. And if you want to have a conversation around how you should, what tool you should track, I'm a big geek on this. So I've tried almost all of them. So you can, set up a scheduled call with me on my calendar, and we can just go over different tools that you can use to be able to track your progress. All right. So that is it, really. So if you have any Q&As, now would be a great time to do that. All right, to put them out there. So just put your questions in the chat, and we'll make sure they get to me. While you are thinking about questions, I just wanted to say I'm going to be doing this founder check-in once a month. So if there are topics that you think you'd love for us to touch on, put that in the chat as well. Send me a message. Also, too, if you are looking at this live now, type live. If you were watching this in the replay on LinkedIn or on YouTube or on Facebook, go ahead and put replay in the chat. I'd love to be able to see who's watching and when they watched and so forth. Also, too, if you would like to, if you haven't downloaded the worksheet, the link for the worksheet is in the chat. Feel free to download it if you came in the middle of it, and we can go from there. Okay, Madeline, how are you doing? All right. So you're saying, so would we still use our project management tools and the operating system? Okay, that's a really, really good question, Madeline. So I would, it depends on your how you are running your projects, like what kind of business you are in. For instance, there are some projects that we use. We use project management tools to manage how we're operating with our clients. For instance, so a lot of things we're working with, we do annual engagements. So we'll use the project management tool for that purpose. But we would bring and import the whole strategic plan into the business operating system, and we track it there. We have our dashboards there. I mean, there's a dashboard for me to look, and you can create your own dashboards per team, and we manage how things are actually moving. But in the project management tools like 90IO, it wouldn't be, I mean, frankly, to be honest, you could use it as a project management tool in the operating system, but it depends a lot on if you have major products outside of that, you would use that. And there's really great ways to sync a lot of your, like if there's some metrics that you need to be able to sync into your from your project management tool into your business operating system, it's really always quite good. 90IO is quite good at that, as well as Cascade, and of course Rhythm Systems. I mean, you can actually create your own. They will create for you your own syncing, so that you can, like, and of course there's Zapier, which also works as well. But I hope that answered your question, Madeline. I think it depends. And if you'd like, we can talk more specifically if you want to schedule something with me. But I do use project management tools to manage projects for my clients and for my business, and how we're doing things in the business. I keep it in the business operating system. Was that helpful? Put a thumbs up in there for me. Okay, perfect. Any other questions that we have? Yeah, yeah. Wait a little while. I know sometimes people have to sort of think and process through. Also too, if you feel that you would like me um, to break down and do sort of a actual founder check-in on one component of the strategic plan, I'll be happy to do that. Definitely put that in the chat as well. All right. Hi, Keisha Winter. That was super helpful. Oh, thank you. I'm glad it was. I'm glad it was. You know, thank you, Renessa. Appreciate that. You're welcome. I'm really curious too, like, because I did a survey on everyone, sort of where people are in terms of a strategic plan. And what I've noticed is that a lot of people have strategic objectives out there that they have already in their business. They don't have a plan in place. And again, we're not talking old school plan in the binder and it's all cute and golden boss folder. You know how that was. But what you're going to be having is, but having a strategic objective that's out there, but not put together in a way that you can tell where the weeklies connect with the strategic core. That's a problem. So even though I think it's better than nothing to have just strategic objectives that are out there that you kind of are using as your go-to, I want to encourage you to geek out a bit with me and get some strategic objective put together in a strategic plan, and so that we could be able to make sure that it's together and then you can execute well. The one component of the strategic plan is a great idea, and make it a working session. You can survey about the specific area. That's a really great. Okay, Keisha Winter, I shall do that. And I think too, I was curious, what was it, if you guys could put in there, what was it that you felt, because most of you have some version of this, right? So what did you think was most helpful, like the thing that you hadn't done yet in the business that you're going to put into place now? I'm going to give you some time. If there was one element, and maybe Edgar, if you could show the funnel again, so that, based on this funnel that we have, what is it that you hadn't put into your current existing strategic plan that is now in it after this talk? So we have the core strategic goal, which is the BHAG, right? And there is the annual strategic goals, your 1, 2, and 3 years out. Then you've got the 1-year strategic goal, which I'm assuming all of you have one of those. And then you have the year 1 focus areas and objectives. And I think that's, I mush those together because I think it's really important to just sort of put them, to me, I think it works well for my clients. And then, of course, you have the FAO tactics, which are the agile components of executing what it is your year 1 FAOs will look like. In the middle, which is not shown on this, are your milestones. I think personally that is where most people don't do. They don't have milestones in their plan. And so I want to make sure that I'm driving home the idea that you're doing a milestone. And then, of course, 90-day goals and action plans, and then your weekly KPIs. I think most people don't do the weekly KPIs as well because they just, we got 90-day goals, we'll get there. So I think the milestones and the weekly KPIs are the ones that I've noticed don't show up much for most clients. But I'd be curious, anyone want to share what they I loved the worksheet that breaks everything down, a big vision to weekly check-ins. Thank you, Madeline. I'm really glad that you got that because remember, we're talking about execution, right? It's execution. On the framework that I put in the first screen, it's called exceptional execution. I am like a geek about this. If we're not executing exceptionally, what are we doing? Obviously, we're not trying to be like perfectionists, but we do want to make sure that what we're doing is executing. And I think having the breakdown from the big goal to the weekly goal, I think it's insurance, Madeline, right? It's insurance that you are going to be actually executing, because major companies, humongous companies in the world that have actual strategic planning staff are not executing well. 90% is a big number, y'all. And I've heard smaller numbers. I must admit, I've heard like 70%. And the one study I saw was like 50%. But even if it's 50% that are not executing, that's still like a bad number. So yes, I think having from top to bottom, from A to Z, as they say, I think there's an African proverb that was talking about eating the entire cow, where you're like eating the entire buffalo. Like you never leave anything to waste. The whole buffalo gets used. So you use parts of the buffalo to clean. You eat the meal, whatever. It's kind of gross now that I'm saying it, but it's the whole point of using everything. If you're gonna use it well. So I think we're gonna end here. If there are no more questions, thank you so much. Let's see here. Keisha said the breakdown of at risk, not on track, likely to exceed, tied to the weekly increases the accountability. Absolutely. If you and I'm telling you, some people I know, like once they sort of grasp this concept in businesses that I've worked with, they become so like anal retentive about it. Like they decide, like they have long lists of what is considered on track, what's considered at risk. And they love it in the company because we're like, no, if it's not, because we love to fudge, right? We're like, no, it's not that bad. Really, it's okay. If this was the number that was success and it's not success, we have to be honest with each other and say it wasn't success. And it's not that we're bad people, that we didn't have success, but it wasn't success. So let's just recognize that truth and then plan accordingly. So yes, Keisha, I love the idea of people embracing the idea that if it's not on track, it's not on track. If it's at risk, it's at risk. And that's it, period. And also celebrate when it's going to exceed expectations. That's really great too. Any other questions, statements, comments? You guys have been fantastic. I really love doing this with you guys. Thank you for joining. Thank you for engaging. If there are people in the chat who you want to connect with, on Facebook and on LinkedIn, connect with people. These are all business owners who are dealing with the same things that you're dealing with as well. So, I think it's really important to develop your network in a way that makes sense for you. So, like I said, if you would like to have a conversation with sort of like a 30-minute sort of like preview of, let's review what you've written down. If you have some questions about if you should transport over to a business operating system software, or if you should stick with your current your current product management software, or if Excel is still working for you, how can you make that work? I would be happy to have a talk with you for a bit and to just sort of help you sort of sort through that, because I love strategic planning. I've been doing it since my early 20s, and I just think it's really the fuel that gets companies succeeding. So other than that, we're going to close out today. Thank you so much. I appreciate you spending some time with us. Go do it. Let's get those Q1 goals done and achieved and heading into the rest of the year. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.